Good afternoon and welcome to the Rotary Club of Edina. I'm Sam Thompson and I'm proud to be your 66th president. Our meeting today is brought to you live at the Edina Country Club and also on Zoom. And with pre-registration, we had 27 people signed up live and 26 Zoom. And it seems like each week I'm telling you that we're living in historic times. 2020 has certainly been a year we're all going to remember. Yet once again, history was made last week in the world of Rotary. Jennifer E. Jones, member of the Rotary Club Windsor-Roseland in Ontario, Canada, was nominated to become Rotary International's president for the year 2022-23. A groundbreaking selection. This will make her the first woman to hold that office in Rotary's 115-year history. Jones spoke at our November 21st meeting last fall, and it was a very inspirational message. She talked about Rotary's impact on fighting polio, poverty, hunger, and providing sanitation and clean water around the world. Jones understands how important it is to follow through on Rotary's diversity, equity, and inclusion statement. And with this nomination, she was quoted as saying, "I believe that diversity, equity, and inclusion begins at the top, and for us to realize growth in female membership in members under the age of 40, these demographics need to see their own reflection in leadership." Jones wants to see double-digit growth in both categories while never losing sight of our entire family. This is really exciting news, and I witnessed a strong response from our members in support of this nomination. Words such as terrific and very deserving, huge, and awesome were all said. From 1957 to 2000, our club had 46 presidents and they were all men. Then, from 2001 until now, we had 20 presidents. 15 were men and 5 were women. So an increase, obviously, in percentage of women, much better. And I wanted to just share with you who the 5 women were. From 2001 to 2, Patty Ellenson Solheim. From 5 to 6, Sandy Schley. From 9 to 10, Ellen Kennedy. 15 to 16, Jennifer Benarat. And 16 to 17, Ann Platt. And in 23-24, Shelly Loberg will be our 6th female president. And Shelly is in the room today. I'm actually sitting with her. I also want to point out our club's women leadership. And this graph talks about our actual club and the women that are in our club by percentage. And we have typically 14 members that are on our club board. And so you can see from 17 to 18, 14% were women, and 18 to 19, 43%. So we saw a really good growth. And 19 to 20, this last year under Josh Sprague's term, was 57%. And it looks like the end of this year will be right at 57% again. So that's great news. So our club fully supports Jones' vision, double-digit growth in female members and those under 40. Yet, we want to encourage membership and leadership in all our demographics. Rotary Club of Edina has a strong foundation of women leaders, and it's exciting to think of how our current women leaders will play a role in the future of our club. Okay, next on to our member update. First, Steve and Kristen Vicker. They are proud grandparents. This is their first grandchild. They're pictured over to the side. They have their son Trig with his wife Mallory. And I asked Steve, he said, "This is the center of our universe." And Rama is the little girl's name. So congratulations, Steve and Kristen. And then I also wanted to share, many of these photos I get are from Facebook, and I saw this one posted just recently It comes from Gordy Lewis, and I know Gordy's on the call. He said he'd be on Zoom, so hi, Gordy. His grandson, Joe, was just married this last month. And so there's a photo here of Joe and his bride, Teresa Thomas. And it's a small wedding service that they had in St. Paul. And then the reception was in Edina at Gordy's daughter's house, Stephanie. And Gordy was quarantined in the house. So you can see it's a photo of his hands up against the window there. His house is in a cul-de-sac. And Joe and Teresa actually had a stick, and they had cupcakes at the end of the stick. So the cars were driving around the cul-de-sac, and they were giving them through the window, the cupcakes. So I thought that was really great. So congratulations, Gordy. And then this last photo, as I was on Facebook, this popped up. And you know when you're on Facebook, they'll say, well, this happened 5 years ago or 6 years ago. Well, this happened 10 years ago, but it was just posted by Jennifer Garski, who's an honorary member. And so I had to show it. I thought it was hilarious. It looks like it was a photo where they were going to Chicago to see Glee. And back then, of course, no social distancing. So I think Kaylin's in there. I'm not sure what she's yelling at them. But okay, and we have some birthdays. So Fred and Peyton have a birthday this next week. So happy birthday. And Rotary anniversaries, Sonia and Jody, congratulations. And assisting off the podium, we have the greeter, Michael Stanzik. And Mary Swenson is our Zoom greeter. And working with Becky is Gary Pedersen. Bonnie Sue Rolstead is doing the Barker. And our photographer, Jennifer Hendrickson, roaming the room. So thank you. With that, I would like to call up Hannah Brooker to give our invocation, pledge, and the four-way test.
Hi, everybody. At the present time, we are at a tipping point in American history. We are living through the upheaval of a pandemic, and in addition, through the disorder and disorganization. Societal, political, and moral turbulence is hitting large urban areas. There are broken windows and rising rates of crime. In a time like this, we support with extra effort the good influences of organizations such as Rotary. For me, as German immigrant, this upheaval reminds me of a massive change that occurred in Germany starting in 1933. Brave people like Pastor Dietrich Bonhoeffer tried to stem the tide. While in the German resistance, he was imprisoned and then executed on April 9th, 1945, in a concentration camp for political prisoners that was 6 weeks before the Allies came and would have freed him. Dietrich Bonhoeffer is my hero. He is an example that we have to stand up for what is right. I want to conclude with a poem, the last words, heard from him in December 1944. It is a prayer. With good powers, wonderful embracing, we await with hope, come whatever may. God is with us in the evening and in the morning, and certainly on each new day. Amen. The Pledge to the Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, with liberty and justice for all. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, Hannah Laura. Great prayer today. It's my pleasure to introduce our guests and visiting Rotarians, and I think we only have one guest, and Hannah Laura brought Kendall Qualls, Thank you so much for doing that. Do you want to introduce Kendall, please?
Well, I'm proud to have him here.
Kendall's running in the 3rd Congressional District, served in the military. Thank you for doing that, and in corporate America too. I give more commercials for that, but I better be quiet. Did I miss anybody? Is there any other guests visiting Rotarians? That's it. Thank you.
Good afternoon. On your tables, you'll find our annual report from the last Rotary year. And I just want to say there are so much information in here, but I just want to say thank you to Team Rotary, the board of directors for both the foundation and the club, the gala chairs, and everyone who worked so hard to bring these amazing results to our club and to the world. And so, if you did serve on last year's board, whether foundation or club, will you just stand so that we can recognize you? Please stand if you were on last year's board. This report will be going out today via email, available in PDF for you to peruse. And thank you again for the opportunity to serve.
Hello, everyone. As Sam mentioned earlier, we started our meetings on July 9th of the live and then the Zoom and joint meeting with the Zoom. And we started doing our roster schedules and assigning duties. And as you can imagine, we have some challenges with it. So what I'm looking for is your feedback and to get your response on an email we're going to be sending out to you tomorrow, asking you 3 specific questions. 1, if you plan to attend an in-person meeting. 2, you're planning to attend either in-person or a Zoom, and you'd be open to fulfilling a in-person roster duty and when it's assigned. Or 3, you're only going to be attending Zoom for the foreseeable future. And if you're just going to do Zoom, we have 3 roster duties that we'll be assigning, and you can expect that. And those 3 duties would be a greeter, writing the barker, and the barker you could also, if you don't attend a Zoom meeting, you could actually look at the rebroadcast and do it that way. And then the 3rd would be invocation. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. We have our annual car show coming up. There are flyers on the table and there are posts on Facebook, so you can see those on Instagram and LinkedIn as well. And it is on September 12th in the afternoon. The car show will be our 2nd annual, and we're excited. Last year, I think we had over 300 attendees at this event. So it's from noon to 4. It's in the Southdale parking lot by the old Herbergers. Come out, wear your blue, talk about Rotary, wear your pins, wear your hats, all your gear, and we'll see you there. Thank you.
Hi, Gordy. Just to get him back. So, for the last couple of years, we have tried to organize a walk to end Alzheimer's. And in past years, we've all gathered down at, now you got me all goofed up. So in past years, we've all met down at the Twins Stadium, and we've been one team of many. I mean, there's been thousands of people that have walked on this and all around the downtown area. So this year, we're going to do something a little different. We are going to walk around Centennial Lakes, and we're going to do it on Saturday, September 26th, and it's at 9:30 to 11:30. And afterwards, if you'd like, you can go over to Pinstripes and have lunch with all of us. You could pay your own way, but we've got some tables that are reserved so that if you want to do that afterwards, you surely can join us. We'd love to have you. I know that many of you have talked to me over the years about some of your relatives and friends and family that have had Alzheimer's, and 1 in 7 of us are going to get some kind of dementia in our lifetime. So come and join us if you'd like. Not to be on the somber part of it, but we'd love to have you. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Rick. And yeah, I plan on being with the Alzheimer's Walk. I do it every year. My dad actually passed away from Alzheimer's, and so it's real dear to my heart. And I think it'll be a fun day. Hopefully it'll be a nice fall color day. And if you want to just come and walk, you can just walk. If you want to walk and have lunch with us, that'd be great. So hope you can make it. Okay, a couple more announcements, and then I'll introduce Shelly to introduce our speaker. A reminder that our gala is September 26th and October 3rd, and invitations should be going out in the next couple weeks, so watch for those. And our leadership series will be next Tuesday, the 18th. Let's talk about race and racism. And Gail Britton talked to our board this past Tuesday, and she was really good. It was a great session. So I highly recommend, this next Tuesday is out to our members. It's 1 hour from 6 to 7. And please feel free to invite guests, employees. I think you'll really enjoy it. And there are flyers on the table for that. Okay, I would like to now introduce Shelly. Shelly, who will be introducing our speaker. Shelly Loberg is currently the Vice President of the Edina Chamber of Commerce and Explorer Edina, and has been a member of our club since 2015. She possesses a BA degree from the University of Minnesota Duluth in communications, and her passions and interests include food, wine, travel, the outdoors, and quality time with her 2 sons, Dane and Evan. She recently traveled to Guatemala with our club last spring and loves to be involved in the global grants that our club authors and executes. Shelly is formerly our club's Director of International Service on our board of directors and is currently serving in the secretary position. And as mentioned earlier, she will be our club president in Rotary year 2023-24. Please welcome up Shelly.
Is that going to be my official lobes? I like it. Thank you for that lovely introduction, Sam. It is my distinct pleasure to talk to you about our speaker today. I have to tell you, I had the most lovely visit with her on the phone yesterday, and I think after that connection, I feel like Susan and I are going to definitely connect in the future and get to know each other better. And she's definitely someone who exudes qualities that I admire very much. Susan Adams Lloyd is the Chief Executive Officer of the Better Business Bureau of Minnesota and North Dakota, which is the largest professional association in the upper Midwest. As a nonprofit 501c6 organization, the BBB sets ethical standards for thousands of accredited businesses and educates sellers and buyers in advancing marketplace trust. She earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in Speech Communications from the University of Minnesota and an MA degree in Speech Communications from Minnesota State University, Mankato. Why can't they just call it Mankato State anymore? And later in life earned a second master's degree from Harvard University in Cambridge, Massachusetts in Extension Studies in May of 2018. Another fun fact about Susan is that she has enjoyed competitive athletics all of her life and is currently a world-ranked master sprinter competing in the 200 meter and 400 meter. You guys, is this not amazing? This woman recognized that she had not achieved something like that earlier in her life and then set out to do it in her 40s, which I think is amazing. She was the 2013 400 meter U.S. Indoor National Champion in her age group and won gold at the 2015 World Master Athletics Championship in Lyon, France. Susan is a native of Edina. She graduated from Edina High School and currently lives here with her husband, Rick, who is a retired hotel executive. Please help me give a really warm Edina welcome to Susan.
I'm wearing the mask up here just for a moment so that my colleagues will see that I wore the BBB mask, but I'm told that I can take it off. And first of all, let me say Thank you, Shelly, for the sweet introduction and also for our fun conversation yesterday. And Don and Sam as well, I've enjoyed connecting with you. And let me also give a shout out to Wayne Harmon and Dr. Rauner. It's great to see friends here. As an Edina native who grew up just around the corner on Casco Avenue, and my wedding reception was in this room right here, as long as a couple of my high school reunions. It's really fun to be with family. I feel like family, neighbors and friends here in Edina at the Edina Country Club, which my parents were members here for about 50 years, so it's great to be here. Fun fact about Better Business Bureau, it was founded right here in Minnesota. And can you believe at the time that it was founded, indeed, people were wearing masks. We were in the middle of a pandemic, economic hard times, and civil unrest. And I have the privilege now of working in the Minnesota BBB, of which there are 103 across the United States and Canada. We all work independently now, but it started right here in Minneapolis. And it was a group of business leaders that recognized early on that indeed there was, in hard times, particularly a wave of fraud and advertising that wasn't ethical. And they came together to, if you will, challenge those claims that were being made at the time. And from that a mission of continuing education for businesses and consumers, and fraud prevention for both of those audiences is one of our primary outreach initiatives. We work with the Federal Trade Commission, Department of Commerce, and the Attorney General's Office. But in case you don't know it, I know when you hear the name Better Business Bureau, a lot of people think that we are a government agency, and no, we are a 501c6, as Shelly said, and we are, in fact, a non-enforcement organization. We are a nonprofit organization that helps people no matter what their needs are with regard to questions about fraud prevention, customer service, and a variety of other issues related to ethics and building trust. So because we're 501c6, as a small business in Minnesota that's not eligible for the PPP funding, we too, like many of the small companies here, have felt the pain of the last 4 to 5 months in the economic downturn. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the work that we have been doing with our international association across all of North America in collecting information about the economic recovery at a time where we're all facing these challenges. And that's another part of what Better Business Bureau does, is we collect a lot of data. We have just an inordinate amount of data. And if you ever want to know about business trends or find out about businesses in Minnesota or anywhere across the country, check out bbb.org, because it's just a fountain of information. And in fact, the International Association of Better Business Bureau does research on business trends, and our recent Pulse study measured the economic impact of COVID crisis beginning back in March and surveyed hundreds of businesses across North America, first in March and then in June again, to compare to see if there were any trends that were coming forward at that time. The goal of this study was to understand challenges, and I think most of us know what some of those challenges are, but were there any patterns that suggested what businesses could do to make themselves more capable and resilient during these economic hard times? And how to pivot accordingly. And by now, again, I'm going to say the pain points are familiar to us, but BBB's partner, McKinsey Global Institute, and then their partner, Oxford Economics, estimate that it's going to take us about 5 years to come back from this, for many sectors and particularly for small businesses. So we're going to be in this for a while. It's not like the vaccine is going to come and we take off our masks and things go back to what we're used to. And in fact, Sam mentioned, others mentioned the economic hard times of 10, 15 years ago. This is a whole new animal. And hearing that might make you feel right away defeated and like, why is she bothering to show up and talk about what we already know? But I want to tell you that there is some good news in this data, and that's really what I want to talk about. And that has to do with the fact that the hope and the insight that this data tells us suggests that the healing has already begun. And to capture positive stories and identify successful strategies for businesses amidst converging forces of COVID-19 spread amongst the economic downturn, IABBB has in fact not only conducted this research but created these educational opportunities for all of you to reach into this data to apply what it is that you can do for your business. Now, in the few minutes that I have, I can only share a little bit about this, and I'm so excited about it. And so I hope you feel that there are some takeaways that you can glean and look at right away as it relates to your business. And I will say, spoiler alert here, the common element for businesses who have more successfully navigated already through some of this is trust. Building trust in your organization, building trust in your community, and building trust within associations like today, where you gather weekly for Rotary. Trust with your customers, trust with employees, stakeholders, and certainly communities is key. Now, let me start out with a few hopeful revelations here. And first, while the COVID-19 and the shutdowns have wreaked havoc, the data says things are getting better. Why do we know that? Well, our data shows that, in fact, in March of this year, when asked the question how people thought their businesses were doing and what they anticipated the pandemic would do to harm their companies, 87% said that the outlook was negative and not so good. And only 11% actually thought that there could be some positive outcomes. Now, you might say, what the heck? Who are these companies? Well, some of those companies were probably in the essential trades, or they might be manufacturing something that would help during a pandemic time, medical equipment and whatnot. But those numbers are really interesting when you look at the June numbers, and that is to say, already by June, 4 months into the pandemic, our research shows that when asked the same companies about what the pandemic might do to harm a company, only 71% said that they believed the pandemic would harm them, and more optimistically, 24% were already saying, hey, we see some positive outcome of this pandemic. So already in that short period of time, things were getting better. Now, it's important to look at the data another way, and that is to say that in addition to asking about the negative and positive impact about the COVID crisis, our researchers also asked businesses to look at what a company's 60-day outlook would be. And as you can see by the long green arrow, that back in March of 87% felt the pandemic was going to hurt their business, and they anticipated it was going to get worse. But when you look at what happened in June, already, in fact, business owners were feeling more optimistic, in part perhaps because their business had shifted, in part perhaps it's because they had received some of that financial assistance and they were putting it to good work, or maybe their business outcomes and profitability didn't drop as much as they had anticipated it would. So I want to point right here to this little tiny green arrow, and that is to say the 68-day outlook was even more optimistic, because by June of this year, rather than believing things were going to get worse, businesses said, you know what, I think things are already getting better and it's going to be better in 60 days. So people are feeling more optimistic. This is just a few weeks ago. This is hot off the press here. And so that's why I put my smiley face on with a big thumbs up. By June, again, 31% believe the crisis would provide a positive impact. And this is what I want to tell you, and that is to say, I don't have to tell you how challenging this situation is, but necessity can be and will be the mother of invention during this time. A lot of businesses are going to come out more positive afterwards, but it's hard to see when you're in the middle of it. Middle of a crisis is always messy. Now, I don't have to tell you what the challenges are. Here are the ones that we've cited: cash flow, employee issues, and customer safety issues, meeting customers' expectations when supply chains fall apart and you can't provide the products or the raw materials. But I will point to something revealing here, and see the fourth one down. Effective communications are a challenge for companies right now, because the patterns of how customers are engaging with their businesses is so different than what it has been. But that's also an opportunity. And so conversely, when you look at the opportunities in our data, the opportunities are surprisingly not foreign, because perhaps you'll agree that these are the kinds of opportunities that all businesses think about all the time. Did the disruption in the marketplace present ways for us to seize the day, build stronger relationships with our customers and vendors and employees? How about demonstrating support to community? You already do that here. And again, this is a key revelation, which I'll point to in just a minute, of this study. Pamela Rutker is a professor at Harvard University, and one of the blessings of being an alumna there is that I get to participate in free ongoing classes. And I took a course with Pamela Rutker in March and April. She teaches. There's actually a science on crisis management. And this is a fun fact that's separate, but I wanted to share it today because I love it. And I hang on to this each and every day. The virus is doing to your organization what your competition has wanted to do all along. So if you frame this pandemic in terms of its impact on business as not something unusual, but an enormous disruptor that has come into your sector and bopped you over the head, you should be ready for this all along. That's how you react to competitors. If it was, think of Uber, what it's done to the taxi industry, or what Starbucks did to the coffee and beverage industry. That's what COVID-19 is. So you have to think of it as a competitor, not as something that's rolling over you like a steamroller. There's actually a science to it, and I've got another speech that at another point in time I hope to be able to share with you on how to manage through crisis, because there is actually some patterns that do emerge in crisis that we all can pay attention to. So here's the first of our takeaways. Our research uncovered that some businesses have seen the pandemic and its aftermath as a much coveted way to better engage with the community. And indeed, a competitive advantage as such has been realized. And that is to say, one of the reasons why you engage in Rotary, why you engage in the Edina Chamber or BBB, is because it's good for your business. And now more than ever, you need to signal that, because customers are now looking for it. So if you don't maximize your engagement with communities, you don't brag about it, you don't beat your chest about it. I know that's hard. We're all Minnesotans. We don't like to do that. But now more than ever, customers expect it. The marketplace is demanding it, so they're asking you to bring it forward. About that marketplace there, and that is the second thing we've learned in the study, is that a strong online presence is mandatory. Everybody's hunched over their computers right now, and it's not going away. So if you don't have an expertise in online media and communications training, you need to find it. And it can't be your nephew or your intern, summer intern. You have to shift your expertise. I'm not that expert. Thank goodness I have Bao Vang and Amanda McKnight and other people back at BBB. Hi guys, I know you're watching, who do a great job in terms of online expertise. And that's because that's their training and education. And you need to get your business positioned as such. Third, as an overarching strategy for business and a clear competitive advantage in this time of unique economic crisis, is that firms need to align their practices with trust, ethics, and integrity. Those that have already are finding their way towards a brighter future. And that is to say that among other data identified as what is making a difference for stabilizing business, communicating that fundamental trust is what companies are doing. And also, I might add, the showcasing their safety components, what they're doing to align. Like the Edina Country Club has a published protocol for mask wearing and whatnot. That's important very much for what you're doing. The hypervigilance, where customers see it and demonstrate it in very vigilant ways. Your company's public-facing presence and communication strategies are so very, very much important. It might not surprise you what the highest industries for complaints, these are companies that couldn't turn on a dime and then are mechanized in a way that you probably don't. When you call Delta, you might get a recorded message, you buy your ticket online, And we were scheduled to go to a meeting in Portugal in April, and they canceled our flight, and they wouldn't give us our money back, and there was nobody to talk to. And that was one of the examples, the airline industries, because they're just not positioned to be people-centered and to infuse humanity into their communications. Now more than ever, people want to talk to people. They want to know that there's a person behind the strategy, the technology, the storefront that you have. You have to be responsive in that regard. Well, the good news, bad news, these are not just isolated temporary shifts. Our research shows that a new kind of consumer behavior has emerged, and therefore it's not going away. And we can all mourn the way that things used to be and say we just want to get back to normal. We just want it to go back. Well, this is the next normal, and we need to get comfortable in it. And if we're smart and competitive, we'll shift towards it and embrace it in the most eager way. When you think about it, we can imagine how the marketplace has indeed shifted our own behavior as well as that of our customers. I've never had so much takeout food in my entire life, but I have actually found the Great Wall down in France pretty good at it, and I'll go back there because of it. They're so kind and friendly, and I love supporting small businesses like that. And how you treat your customers along the way are in fact how you invest in customer service resources and training really depicts what it is that the marketplace wants right now, and how you manage your own customer expectation. These are all game changers, and when it comes right down to the bare essential, it starts with establishing and maintaining customer trust. So of course, being from BBB, I like to talk about the standards of trust. There's 8 principles that we've built our long history on, and it's sort of think of BBBs not as the police that's slapping people on the hands for not doing good service, but in fact, an ethics coach for companies. And I hope you find these 8 standards kind of familiar to you because they're very much in line with the Rotary 4-way test. So all of this is already familiar to you, and think about the 4-way test as you're thinking about what you need to do in your business right now to engage a community that's looking for trustworthy businesses. And advertising honestly. It's recommended that businesses don't fuel the fears, but in fact create a calm and reassuring communication strategy right now to engage and partner with their customers. So here we go, the 5 takeaways, the really strong 5 takeaways. There's so much in this data, but these are the ones that I think will serve you best. And I hope you're doing some of them already. Number 1, back to that community support. It's okay to brag about what you're doing because you're actually helping the communities find your company that's trustworthy. Trust right now is central, and it's calming. And it helps people to want to crawl out from under the rock. And especially here in Edina and other places that we love and care about, we want the economy to be strong. We want to engage consumers. We want people to know it's good to do business with, especially small businesses in our town. So do everything you can to put that community to support out there. Tell people what your company is doing. More effort, more sacrifice, more give back. Whatever it is that you're doing, tell them. That counts with consumers right now. And although sometimes it's difficult to measure directly, community support and involvement comes back in spades. Our data shows this. It shows it in the study that the businesses who are doing that are already on the road to healing. Number 2 is highlight the hygiene. Regardless of how you feel about this personally or politically, about wearing masks and supporting health guidelines, the marketplace expects it, and it will reward the companies that demonstrate care and concern about their customers and their employees. This is not just advocacy on Better Business Bureau's part. This is what the data shows. So show people, tell people, it's the Minnesota decree, but go above and beyond that, maybe with photographs of your staff, what they're doing now, and how you're aligning your business with this new reality here. Number 3, I talked a little bit about it before, bolster that communication. Now more than ever, as I said, your online presence has to be sophisticated and brand-centric. People are watching you online, and if you don't have the resources and expertise to manage this, you must invest now. The marketplace has permanently shifted, so this is the time to do it. And that leads to our next reveal, and embrace that new customer. She wants to be engaged. She wants to be informed. She's watching you, and in fact, the little things in your companies that make you human, that make you approachable, that tells a little bit about your team, that makes you special, that's your brand. That's who the customers are wanting to engage with. Not your website, not your automated phone. They really want to talk to you. They really want to hear from you. You can do high tech and soft touch. And this is the time where you need to contemplate that. What does your company deliver and what doesn't it do? That's where the ethical advertising is more essential, because customers are really crabby right now. And you don't want to alienate them because they won't forgive you on that front. So be honest and be fair. And if it's a mistake, own it and say it. Saying you're sorry might be the best way. I had a goof up with an order with a company, I think it was in late March or early April, and it was a big goof up, and it really had nothing to do per se with coronavirus, but I couldn't get through to anybody. And it was for something that was very expensive. And when they finally did get back to me 2 weeks after the fact, they were so apologetic, and that made me, I get it, your whole staff's at home. I know, I get it, ours too. And it was a wonderful connection with that company that I'll do business with again. And finally, that leads me to my last slide before I take some question, and that is, trust matters. It always has, but it especially matters now. The only way one can build it in a relationship is by earning it authentically. And this is the perfect time to recommit to the little things that help build trust. It starts immediately before it can be extended in the marketplace. So if it's rotten at the core, you can't market your way out of a bad ethical company. You have to be pure from the inside. So how about this? How about using the 4-way test or the BBB standards of trust to do a trust audit? And maybe even get some outside help with it. We're here. Certainly I'd love to talk to you about accreditation, but as a nonprofit organization, whether you're accredited or not, that's part of what we do. So if BBB can offer any assistance in that regard, we're really an ethics coach and customer service coach, and we do that to accredited businesses or non-accredited business. Tell us how we can help you. How well does your company stand up to it is going to be your first ticket towards getting back on your feet as a company. If BBB can be any service, please let me know. I do have some business cards. I'm here today because I want you to know about it. So let's open up some conversation for questions now. Thank you.
Susan, I've noticed personally that it seems as though some aspects of our economy are really booming. Things that you might expect, like bicycles and recreational vehicles and boats, but even things that maybe you don't expect, like houses and automobiles, they all seem to be doing pretty well. And I'm wondering if that's only my perception. I'm wondering if your statistics bear that out.
So the question was, some things that you would expect to be thriving business-wise in the community are doing quite well, but then there's other things like selling houses or bigger ticket items that seem to be doing okay too, and what's up with that? We do have a theory on that, and especially relative to BBB, we register not only complaints, but we also register reviews, and there's a gargantuan number of complaints and reviews that suggest that there's this economy that's actually bubbling. People are at home, they got a lot of time on their hands. And like for us in May, I'm just using this as a personal example, our furnace, our fireplace, and we had some water in the basement. Not that we wouldn't have done those anyways, but sitting at home looking at it, we had to get it fixed. So we have a theory it's because more people are at home. Might be a boredom factor, it might be like a frenetic, I gotta do something, and it makes people feel good. And also because interest rates are low and there's other signs that the economy underneath this crisis was healthy to begin with. And so some of it was probably in motion beforehand, but it gives us hope that some of those things that are important for the stability of our entire economy, not just locally, but across the world, are very strong. and some of those sectors will come bounding back. So we've noticed the same thing too, and where the obvious holes and hardships are right now on the small businesses, entertainment, restaurants, things of that nature that makes it hard for people to engage without actually physically going to. Minnesota Twins have to be worried about right now. So they're not a small business, but they're dealing with some hardships. So we have noticed those patterns. Other questions? Josh?
So, online reviews can be also inaccurate,
Yes.
both to the positive, where people fraudulently review themselves positively, or to somebody who maybe it was a personality conflict and not a service conflict, and then they personalize that into the review. How do you review the accuracy of the claims about the businesses that you're working with?
Thank you, Josh. There was very good questions about our online complaints and how legitimate are those, and how do we, if you will, I'm going to use the word police it to make sure that they're legitimate. Well, actually, we have an entire team that does nothing but look into the legitimacy of that. And on top of some very sophisticated technology that looks for patterns and reviews to see if it's a person that's just spitting out stuff all over the place, our very skilled and trained, I mean, I sound like I'm bragging, but I will say this is the foundation of what we've been doing for over 100 years. So both with reviews and complaints, we look for the things where a transaction has actually taken place. And so where we haven't been able to respond and we've dismissed claims are when people are just complaining about stuff that there wasn't a transaction. For example, there are a number of complaints that we have received saying that store owner is a racist and you shouldn't do business there. Well, that may or may not be true. That's out of our purview. We can't substantiate that. It's not within our standards of trust. We're looking, it's not that we don't think being a racist is not a bad thing, it's horrible, but we're looking for transactions where something happened that went amok. And then we reach out to the organization as well, and business as well, and we allow them to respond to say, that wasn't my customer. We didn't do service there. That's actually probably a competitor. So there's a lot more science before it, and sometimes we redact pieces of it when it becomes very personal and it's an attack. But we always allow the company to respond then to post as well what legitimately they can say, so that it has, that's why bbb.org complaints and reviews are so different than going to a company's website, because they really are vetted. And we work very hard as an international association to uphold that data. It's the most critical part of what we do and why we exist. So thank you for that question. I saw the hand up, go over there.
Assuming that a consumer has a complaint and they don't want to go directly to the company and they don't want to hire an attorney and have out-of-pocket expense, the two remaining choices are either to go to the Better Business Bureau,
Right.
file a complaint, or to the Attorney General.
Yes.
What are the two differences between them, and what would the expected outcomes be between the Attorney General and the BBB?
Sure. The question is about the process of you've been slighted or harmed in your transaction with a company, and you might not want to hire an attorney because you've already spent money with a guy or a gal that's taken your money, or a company that's done wrong. They're not following up. You went to build a deck, you gave them money, they never came and built the deck. What do? And what's the difference between BBB and the Attorney General filing a complaint there? Did I capture that correctly? And I would say, first and foremost, we encourage all consumers that have found themselves slighted by a bad transaction in the community to do both. And actually, the Federal Trade Commission is also a great place to file. Go full blown, number one. Number two, BBB tries really hard to settle that issue, so we're sort of mediators, if you will, and we actually offer mediation to both consumers and to businesses. And that's why it's important to use an accredited business, because they will have agreed to that mediation or arbitration up front if there's a complaint filed against them. Attorney General's office, I don't know as well as I should perhaps about the process, but we are partners with the Attorney General's office, and sometimes they come to us and we go to them saying, hey, we've seen a pattern of complaints here that this is not good and you need to know about it. And likewise, they'll say, do you have any information for it? But generally speaking, we try to get to the root of it and resolve it. so that buyers and sellers trust each other. We're not looking for the bad guys to run out of town. I would say there's only like 12 or so, 10, 12 a year where we really find a bad guy, and then we report that to the Attorney General's office. But generally, it's a misunderstanding. I paid for the deck. No, you didn't. That check bounced. That's why we didn't come. But we get people in a virtual room or actually in a physical room. We're a certified mediation and arbitration specialist, and we have trained staff to do that. And we try to resolve it. We want everybody to go away happy, especially the business. We want them to learn from it. But sometimes there's crazy customers. It's not always a bad business. And so we try to reconcile that as best we can with the very highly trained. Many of our staff has spent their entire career there. So,
I think we have time.
oh, time for one more. I'm so excited to answer questions.
Hi, Susan. Thanks
How are you?
for being here.
Yeah, it's great to see you.
So I don't know if you have an opinion or can give advice, or if the Better Business Bureau has formulated anything, but when retail customers or at a location or a hotel or whatever, a customer comes in, doesn't want to wear a mask.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's a real tricky situation. Is there advice that the BBB has on that?
Right.
Certain issue?
Yes, thank you. The question is, do we have any advice about standards and practices relative to the Minnesota decree and the guidelines relative to that, and do we weigh in on that? BBB is focused on transactional kinds of complaints, and although we also adhere to it and advise people to follow the state guidelines, we're an apolitical organization. We leave it in the hands of the people who should be reported to, and when complaints like that come forward, unless it's transactionally based, we don't opine on any of that, but we would refer consumers, or we would refer, sometimes we're getting complaints from employees that are saying, my business owner is not, I don't feel safe. And then we'll refer them to the Department of Employment and Economic Development, DOLI, OSHA. We provide all those numbers because we don't try to step into space that's not ours. And again, we're not an enforcement agency anyways. We're only a helpful data point, and as I mentioned, sort of an ethics coach. We'd advocate for it, but we wouldn't weigh in on something like that because it's out of our own purview there. So, good question. Thank you. Appreciate it very much. Better put my mask on again. I don't want to be in trouble. I like to follow the rules. All right.
Susan, thank you very much for your presentation. I think everyone appreciated the thumbs up notion and the whole idea that you're there to give us a view of hope. It also emphasizes something that I've been trying to get myself to do, which is to recognize that it isn't a matter of holding our breaths until this is over. We are in a new normal, and we have to live in the moment and live, the way we are, and what comes, it may never be the way it was. So thank you very much for that perspective. From literacy and peace to water and health, Rotary is a global network of 1.2 million problem solvers who unite to take action to create a lasting change around the world. In honor of your presentation, we will be making a donation to the Sheridan Story. It's an organization focused on providing weekend and other food gap programs to over 10,000 children in the Twin Cities area. Thank you again very much.
Thank you very much. I very much appreciate it. Thank you so much.
That was great, Susan. Thank you. Okay, looking ahead, tonight, Rotaract has their picnic. And then on August 18th, as mentioned, our leadership series, Let's Talk About Race and Racism. And then on August 27th, in a couple of weeks, Prospective Member Day. So please invite guests, and it should be a great day. And thank you for attending. Thank you, Susan, being here live and on Zoom. And I'd like to leave you with a quote. You may not realize it when it happens, but a kick in the teeth may be the best thing in the world for you. Walt Disney. Meeting adjourned.